If you want to get to grips with rhythm notation and the way rhythm works generally, then check out my book published by Hal Leonard called Rhythm and Counting. It'll give you a solid grounding in rhythm work with all the info you need to write, read, and play rhythms, and all the symbols and time signatures you'll commonly come across. There are plenty of exercises and clear explanations with audio recordings of every example. Depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on, you might be used to thinking about crotchets and quavers, or maybe you're more familiar with quarter notes and eighth notes. In this video, I'll be mixing these names up a bit because I don't want anyone to feel left out, but just to be clear, a crotchet is the same as a quarter note, and a quaver is the same as an eighth note. Okay, let's get on with it. A triplet is a group of 3 equal notes played in the space of 2. To see how this works, let's take a simple drum pattern with a bass drum playing on every beat and with 4 beats to the bar. I've added a count of 4 clicks to bring us in. Now, just to give it a bit of a pop feel, let's add a snare drum on beats 2 and 4. This is the so-called backbeat, and it doesn't really help us to understand triplets any better, of course, but it does make our beat a bit more interesting. Okay, so now that we've got our basic beat, let's add some hi-hat notes. They're going to be on the beat, like the bass drum, but also in between the beats too. Here's how that sounds. We would count these hi-hat notes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We can say the in-between notes are on the and. To write this out, if we're using crotchets or quarter notes to signify the bass drum beat, like this, then we'll be using quavers, that's eighth notes, for the hi-hat. We say the quavers, or eighth notes, are subdivisions of the crotchets, or quarter notes. A quarter note subdivides into 2/8. When you have a time signature with a 4 at the bottom, like 4/4 or 3/4, say, you'll know that the beat naturally subdivides in 2. But what if we wanted to split the beat into 3? Here's a new drum pattern, and this time the hi-hat is playing 3 times per beat. In fact, there are now 12 hi-hat notes in the bar, and we don't have a rhythm symbol for a 12th note, so we use the 8th note symbols as before, but now we just bracket them together in groups of 3. These are triplet eighths, or triplet quavers. We count 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a. And this might look like a bit of a homemade solution, but this is actually the correct way to do this. You can use the same method to show triplet crotchets. Let's play 3 toms in the space of 2 crotchets. Here's the basic beat. And now here are the toms. To work out the placement of these triplet crotchets, you can use the triplet quaver count as a reference, like this. And to write this out, we'll use triplet crotchets, or triplet quarters, by grouping them together with a bracket and a number 3. Here it is again. So that's it. Triplets are 3 notes that together occupy the space of 2 normal notes of that value. They're a bit cumbersome to read and write if you're using them all the time, and if they're an integral part of your rhythmic feel, you might consider using a more appropriate time signature. As I said, a time signature based on a 4 subdivides the beat into 2, but if you're working with a beat that subdivides into 3, you'll want to use a time signature with an 8 at the bottom. Here, for example, is a bar of 12/8. Now the eighths are naturally grouped in 3s, and we don't need triplet brackets. This is what time signatures with an 8 at the bottom are for, creating natural groups of 3/8, which makes them much easier to deal with, especially if you've got a lot of them. Here's the triplet eighths pattern we had before in 4/4, but now played in 12/8. The slightly weird thing is that in this time signature, with the beat subdividing into 3/8, a single beat is no longer a crotchet or a quarter note as it was in 4/4. If you're used to thinking of this symbol as representing a beat, then this will take a bit of getting used to. The symbol for a single beat is now a dotted crotchet, like this, which is what 3 quavers together make. So that's a dotted quarter, making 3/8. And to finish, here's a simple comparison between 2 different time signatures that both contain 6/8 notes. Here's a bar of 3/4 with 3 lots of 2 quavers. We would count this as 1 and 2 and 3 and. And here's a bar of 6/8. Again, we have 6 quavers, but now they're in 2 groups of 3. They would be counted as 1 and a 2 and a.